Morning, ma'am. I am Rushton Paray. I'm the Member of Parliament for the constituency of Mayaro. Today I am not representing any political party. I'm making that very clear. I'm here to represent 41,295 people who live in the constituency of Mayaro. I will allow those sitting here who are all constituents to raise their own personal matters. I am here to speak very, very briefly and quickly for those who couldn't be here today. We do have a wide contingent of residential customers, a fair amount of commercial customers, and we do have an industrial complex in the constituency as well. I'm going to make some very brief comments. I have one or two questions, and I will not delay the commission nor the people here unnecessarily. So first of all, the first comment that I would like to make, I find it highly, I don't want to use the word disrespectful, that Saturday morning at 10 o'clock for this meeting, it's unreasonable. For those of you who would have done a bit of research about the constituency of Mayaro, we are a farming, we are a fishing community, right? 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning, there's a fair amount of church that happens on a Saturday morning. And for 10 o'clock, it was a bit unreasonable in my respectful view. Mayaro, the community of Mayaro, is not the center of our administrative districts in the constituency, because it takes 2.5 hours for a young mother to leave Beach to get here. And the voices of the people of Beach is very, very critical as well. So choosing Mayaro here, while I'm grateful, it's 10 minutes from where I live, so it doesn't take a whole lot of me to get here. But the rest of the constituency, I think it was a bit unreasonable. This could have been done somewhere in Rio Claro, which is central to the entire constituency. We'd have had a wider participation at the end of the day. So that is my first comment on this matter. The other thing I want to tell you, and again, because the fact that we picked Saturday morning, it says that you did not do your research about Mayaro very well at all. Mayaro as a constituency is not as prosperous. They are not as strong as a lot of other communities in this country. And just for some information from an ECLAC report, Mayaro does have about a 45% literacy level in terms of the general base of the constituency. 20% of our workforce earns less than $2 US per day. The poverty level in this entire constituency is around 40%. Combined with that, over the last 2 or 3 years with the rate increases for fuel, you have driven down to Mayaro here. I know Chairman talked about a drive this morning. I am telling you, ma'am, you took the nicer route. If you had to come from San Fernando to Mayaro, you would see the pressure on your vehicle and so on. So you have an additional cost on vehicle and vehicle maintenance and so on. We have the worst water supply in the entire country. Today, this morning, I have 16 communities with no water. 16. And when they do get water, it's 21 days. I'm on the phone every day with the chairman, the CEO, and it seems that they can't fix this problem. Now, I tell you this in the context of the increase in the electricity rates that are coming. I say that in the context of that because the constituents of Mayaro, they will see this as an additional pressure and burden on the quality of life that they have here already. Now, you're going to do what you have to do, ma'am. The RIC will do. You have your job to do. I'm not blaming. I'm not being facetious in any way. My job is to put it before you. So when you do your analysis and you go back to Tech, you will advise them exactly what I have said on behalf of the people here, plus what they will say as well. If we look at the current situation economically, we've had between 2020 and 2022 a 28% inflation rate, 22%. Now, when you look at bread, 27% increase in bread, 24% for meat, cheese and eggs, 17% increase. I say this in the context that we have 220,000 people in the workforce that is earning less than $6,000 a month. When you put this increase on that, it puts additional pressure on those people. Now, when you look at Mayaro, again, I'm here representing Mayaro as a constituency. We have had the worst impact pre-pandemic post-pandemic. Prior to the pandemic in 2020, Mayaro has been reeling from the disastrous economy in terms of the energy sector. We've had massive amount of layoff, retrenchment coming into the pandemic because of the fact that the oil prices collapsed and so on. You had the pandemic, small and micro enterprises in Mayaro could not get a grant, could not get the support from the state, by no fault of the state, let me be that clear. But in communities like Mayaro and Rio Claro, there is what you call the unofficial business system. People run their little business, their parlors, their fishing operations without registration and so on. That caused a problem for business. So there was a huge amount of retrenchment on the very lower level. The very lower level, these bars that would sell a little food had to retrench 3 and 4 people. And then the pandemic was done. There was very few of those businesses were able to kick back off and get back the employments of these people. So I say that in terms of the impact that the rate increases is going to make. And I know the gentleman who spoke before, basically we said that for residential customers, it will be about a 0.2 cent increase in terms of the existing rate versus the new rate. And I agree with you. I agree with you, the impact for those at the very lowest sub 400 kilowatt level may very well have a very minimal impact. But the sting in the tail is not there. The sting in the tail is from the business side of it. And I heard the Honorable Minister ask the business community, please absorb the increase, don't pass it on to the consumer. That is what is called gaslighting. Gaslighting is when we plant an idea in your head and we will tell these people they are vexed with all the business people because they're greedy. That is unfair to the business people. When you take the cost of making a chubby sells for about $1.50, I think, now. When SM Jalil has to make that chubby and he goes 140% increase in his electricity, and that chubby is made and he has to put it in a warehouse, and that gets another 140% increase, and then somebody supermarket chain had to buy 1,000 cases and put it in their warehouse for another 60 or 70% increase, and then it comes in the supermarket on the shelf for another 40% increase. I can't see that cost along that 4-tiered chain not hitting the pockets of these very people who are sitting here. I agree with you, ma'am. There is never a good time to raise price on anything. I totally agree with you that. Decisions have to be made. Tiantec is a pretty bad place. But I do believe that any of these adjustments should be considered over a longer period, a longer term with fixed timelines, fixed deadlines. So it gives us the opportunity, especially the business community, time to transfer from Tiantec power to renewables, to solar, to wind, or whatever we have. And perhaps in your recommendations, ask the state, look, can you provide a fund, low interest fund that businesses can purchase a loan to do these things? And if you have 6 or 8 years and you do nothing, well then you pay the price because you would have done nothing. But to come all of a sudden to go and make this type of jump, as I said, the sting in the tail for the everyday consumer is not going to be in their bill because they had the power to manage that. You said, I forget his name, so my apologies. You said that we have to be conservationists in terms of how we use our power. And the power for each one of these young men and ladies here, they will have the power to that. They can turn their switches off, turn their bulbs off. I think somebody said that, oh, if you're in air condition, some air condition talk. But most people here in Mayaro, we need the air condition. But they will have no control on the price of the goods on the shelf. So that is where the sting in the tail is going to be. And I really feel that there should be some consideration for that. I just have about 2 or 3 questions and then I'll be done, sir, and then you could respond. Very quickly, under the Act, how many people sitting on the head table here are commissioners? By show of hand, any one of you guys are commissioners?
No, I am the chairman.
Chairman, but are you a commissioner?
Yeah, oh.
Yes?
I must be a commissioner.
No, I'm asking, I didn't know. So thank you.
Yes,
so there's ought to be 5 commissioners. I feel...
No, there's 7 of us.
Yeah?
7 commissioners.
7 commissioners, 5 to 7 the law states, right? Between 5 and 7. My view is that the commissioner should be here to hear what we're saying. Because the law empowers by law those 5 or 7 persons to listen and act. I know how conversations and communication work. Because what you hear today may not end up in the ears of the commissioner. I would have been satisfied if the 5 or the 7 commissioners were here to listen what these people have to say. Because our situation, our view on life in Mayaro is different from those on the East-West Corridor. It's different from Port of Spain and San Fernando. And I would really like the commissioners to listen to what our people have to say and understand how we see the world through our lens. And whether it makes minimal change, a little piece of change, then we would have done our jobs here this morning. So that is something that I feel that we need to fix better. I think the RIC has been, and I'm not saying you, ma'am, I know you all are new board from 2021. I think the RIC, through successive governments, have been lazy in doing their job. The law, which we all swore an oath to stand by, should have been to do your rate assessment every 5 years. Why come 17 years after with this big stick to drop on the citizens? 17 years after. Now, in fairness, as a rational thing to do, 5 years could have given Tiantec an opportunity to have just what we're saying, the same gradual increase that I'm asking. We could have done gradual increases. So the hit, the pain, what you're going to hear today would not have been such a big issue. And I mean, you have heard, I don't think anybody here will say anything that you are here for the last 12 consultations. They're going to be saying the same thing with a view from Mayaro. So that is something I feel that you should have done a little better, and going forward, I do hope that that is something that has changed. You also mentioned about all these new policies and regulations and so on that you're going to insist that Tiantec does. But we've been there 20 years, you have been in existence, and you still hear people crying out waiting 1 year to get rebate for a toaster, a blender, a fridge. You know, you pull teeth out today, especially with WASA. I alone probably send 5,000 emails for the RIC every month concerning WASA. So I'm saying, what are you going to do different in this dispensation to make sure that these state utility bodies do their job? And as I close, I want to make a plea, especially in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. I am responsible for trade and industry. I work very closely with our manufacturers. We do have a very small manufacturing component of the constituency here in Mayaro. And I can tell you, in Trinidad, the manufacturing sector is 40% utilized right now. We have great capacity to grow manufacturers. Right now, manufacturing is really bringing the much needed US currency that we need to drive this country with the suppression of energy. But I do feel the rate as proposed for our manufacturers, it is going to be a disincentive for expansion. The manufacturers have a lofty goal of doubling exports by 2025. I cannot see with this particular increase, they will be tooled and able to do so. I think there's going to be a retraction in the capacity of our manufacturers to operate. And if we already have such a tightening of the economy based on our energy, on our petrochemical products, by sticking this to our manufacturers, I think we're going to end up in a lot of problems, and it's going to be a huge disincentive. So I really would like, when you go back to the drawing board and you're having that conversation with Tiantec, I have spoken to a few manufacturers. I mean, besides just the rate increase, they have to deal with all the other issues that I've just spoken about in terms of, increase in cost, operation, ease of doing businesses, and the issue of crime and so on. It's better they go somewhere else. When they go, we lose jobs. And jobs are important. Jobs are very important to the people of Mayaro here. We have a little bit of manufacturing. I really want to make sure that those people continue, so we can put the jobs in for the folks at Mayaro. So I know there are a lot of people here. I will not take any more time. Ma'am, thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. Thank you for coming to Mayaro. I know we were a bit concerned that the consultation would have closed and we would not have gotten our time. Be that as it may, that I think the timing is bad. We are grateful that you are here this morning so that we can listen to my constituents. So thank you very much, ma'am. Take care.